Did you know Lana Turner's teenage daughter stabbed a mobster to death in their Beverly Hills home? Or that platinum blonde bombshell Jean Harlow's mysterious death at 26 might be linked to mob secrets? Hollywood's golden era wasn't just about glamour. It was a dangerous dance where starlets like Marilyn Monroe and Ava Gardner fell into the arms of America's most notorious gangsters. The studio publicity machines hid these deadly affairs. But tonight, we expose Hollywood's darkest secret: the beautiful women who loved dangerous men. Jean Harlow. The original platinum blonde bombshell had darkness lurking behind those bedroom eyes. Jean Harlow wasn't just MGM's greatest sex symbol of the 1930s. She was caught in a dangerous web of mob connections that may have cost her dearly. Through her second husband, MGM executive Paul Byrne, Harlow became entangled with Hollywood's mob-backed financiers and their shadowy dealings. When Byrne died under mysterious circumstances, whispers started flying that Hollywood's mob-backed moneymen might have had reasons to keep secrets buried. Despite MGM's frantic attempts to squash the rumors, Harlow's name kept appearing in stories linking her to mob-financed parties and the shady deals hiding beneath Tinseltown's polished surface. What made Harlow's situation unique wasn't just her talent, but her remarkable ability to exist in two worlds simultaneously: the glossy silver screen and the smoke-filled backrooms, where mobsters controlled the real power. Studio executives worked overtime to bury these connections, but the speculation only grew louder. Marketed as the innocent girl with the platinum hair, gossip columnists painted a very different picture. One of Hollywood's first blonde starlets whispered about as a gangster's moll. Her early death at 26 only deepened the mystery surrounding her connections to the underworld, leaving fans to wonder what secret she took to the grave. Lana Turner. Few actresses lived a life as dramatic off-screen as Lana Turner. The woman who made hearts race in The Postman Always Rings Twice lived a private life that could have been pulled straight from a noir script. At the center of one of Hollywood's most shocking scandals was Turner's volatile relationship with Johnny Stompanato, a handsome, slick enforcer who worked as the right-hand fixer for notorious mob boss Mickey Cohen. What started as a glamorous romance quickly descended into terror. The Los Angeles Examiner reported she often used makeup to hide bruises, and Stompanato's jealousy was legendary. He once pulled a gun on a director who made an offhand joke to Turner at a Cairo club party. The relationship reached its bloody climax in April 1958, when Stompanato was fatally stabbed in Turner's Beverly Hills home by her 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane. The teenager acted during a heated argument, fearing for her mother's life. America was stunned as the New York Daily News blared, "Hollywood's golden girl, 14-year-old daughter, and death of a gangster lover," across its front page. Turner's career somehow survived the scandal. Instead of fading away, she leaned into the drama, with her films in the late 1950s and early 60s, often melodramas filled with betrayal and passion, mirroring her off-screen chaos. Audiences didn't just buy tickets for her performances. They bought into the legend of a woman caught in the dangerous pull of mob ties: Virginia Hill. Unlike many actresses who were whispered about, Virginia Hill didn't just flirt with the lifestyle, she lived it. A fiery redhead who could light up a room, Hill was more than just Bugsy Siegel's girlfriend. She was deeply embedded in the network itself, working as a courier and companion in a world where Hollywood glamour and mob money often overlapped. Hill started as a bit player, drifting into show business through charm and ambition, but quickly realized her greatest stage wasn't in front of the camera, but in the smoky backrooms where power was traded. With Siegel, she wasn't just starlet arm candy, she became a trusted partner. When Siegel launched his vision of Las Vegas with the Flamingo Hotel, Hill was right there, mixing with stars, politicians, and mob backers. Her Hollywood appearances were few, but her reputation was legendary. She was part of the high society gossip columns, always photographed in fur coats and diamonds. Yet insiders knew those luxuries came from her ties to men who didn't answer to studio bosses. For many, Hill embodied the very definition of a moll: glamorous, untouchable, but also dangerous by association. And unlike others on this list, she seemed to thrive in that role. Virginia Hill wasn't pretending to be part of the underworld. She was its queen, and Hollywood couldn't look away. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton was supposed to be Hollywood's next great siren. With her piercing eyes and bold presence, she lit up films like Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye, alongside James Cagney. But instead of climbing to stardom, her personal life pulled her into a spiral that tabloids couldn't get enough of. Payton's choices in men were headline fuel. She was linked to tough actors who themselves had underworld friends. And then came her entanglement with Tom Neal and Franchot Tone. Their public brawl over her wasn't just Hollywood gossip. It was the kind of chaotic drama that connected her name to dangerous company. To studios, she quickly became too risky, and the big roles dried up almost overnight. Much of it came from the perception that she wasn't just a starlet with poor taste in men. She was too close to figures that frightened the straight-laced Hollywood establishment. Barbara Payton became the cautionary tale of a rising actress who let her personal life outshine her career. She had the looks, the talent, and the opportunity, but by stepping into the wrong spotlight, she ended up remembered less as a star and more as one of Hollywood's most infamous molls. Her rapid fall from promising starlet to Hollywood outcast remains one of the industry's most tragic examples of how dangerous connections could derail even the most promising careers. Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner was the very picture of Hollywood glamour. She was the woman men crossed oceans for, and the woman other actresses envied. But while her marriages and romances made headlines, what raised eyebrows were her connections that seemed to brush too close to the mob world. Through her high-profile relationship with Frank Sinatra, Gardner found herself at the center of whispers about Sinatra's own uneasy ties with underworld figures. Sinatra was known for his fiery temper and powerful friends, and Gardner, glamorous, outspoken, and unapologetically independent, was right there beside him. Some insiders claimed she attended parties where the guest list looked less like Hollywood royalty and more like a mobster's roll call. Gardner herself wasn't accused of wrongdoing, but proximity was enough. The public imagination did the rest. To her fans, she was more than just an actress. She was the kind of woman who could walk into any room, no matter how dangerous, and own it completely. What's fascinating is how Gardner turned that dangerous edge into part of her legacy. On screen, she was sultry, untouchable, and magnetic. Off screen, she carried that same energy, making her both admired and feared. She wasn't just a star, she was a legend, and her rumored mob ties only deepened the mystique that made her one of Hollywood's most enduring icons. Marie McDonald. Marie McDonald earned her nickname from the press long before she earned respect as an actress. Dubbed the Body for her statuesque figure, she quickly became one of Hollywood's most photographed women of the 1940s and 50s. But while her beauty turned heads in front of the camera, it also drew the attention of men whose power didn't come from studio contracts. McDonald's personal life became a revolving door of high-profile romances, many of which linked her to men with serious underworld reputations. Her love life filled gossip columns as much as her movies did, and it wasn't long before the line between Hollywood star and gangster's girlfriend blurred. Some stories even suggested her career was boosted by powerful figures behind the scenes who weren't exactly producers or directors. What made McDonald's story stand out was how unapologetically she leaned into her image. She wasn't trying to be the girl next door. She wanted to be the glamorous star who lived larger than life, even if it meant attracting the wrong kind of attention. Studios may have marketed her as a pinup, but the public increasingly saw her as someone living in the orbit of men who made Hollywood nervous. Her acting career never matched the drama of her personal life, and in many ways, her legend grew more from the gossip pages than the big screen. Marie McDonald is remembered less for her film roles and more for her reputation as one of Hollywood's most photographed, most glamorous, and most notorious molls. Gloria Vanderbilt. Long before she became a fashion icon, Gloria Vanderbilt flirted with the idea of acting. As a teenager in the 1930s, she was already one of America's most photographed socialites, thanks to her family fortune and the infamous custody battle that made national headlines. At just 17 years old, Vanderbilt wed film producer and agent Pat DiCicco, a man nearly 13 years her senior. DiCicco was not only connected to Hollywood, but was also allegedly tied to the notorious Lucky Luciano crime family. The young Gloria rushed into the marriage during a visit to her mother, wanting to avoid returning to the home of her aunt, Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney. As Vanderbilt grew into adulthood, she mingled in circles that weren't limited to debutante balls and Broadway parties. Some of her early companions included men with mob money behind their fortunes, sparking whispers that the heiress-turned-actress was living dangerously close to the edge. Unfortunately, Vanderbilt quickly realized that the marriage was more than just a poor decision. It was dangerous. DiCicco proved to be hot-tempered, violent, and emotionally abusive. Eventually, Vanderbilt left him for her second husband, the much older conductor Leopold Stokowski, finalizing her divorce from DiCicco in 1945 and paying him a hefty settlement of $350,000. While Vanderbilt ultimately reinvented herself as a designer and businesswoman, those early years kept her linked to the kind of stories that blurred the line between glamour and danger. For a time, Gloria Vanderbilt wasn't just the poor little rich girl. She was whispered about as yet another debutante who doubled as a moll. Clara Bow. Clara Bow was the original It Girl, the flapper spirit captured in one woman. She was wild, magnetic, and the face of 1920s Hollywood. But behind the bright smile and that rebellious bob haircut, Bow's life off-screen was chaotic, filled with rumors of connections to men who weren't exactly studio gentlemen. Bow grew up in poverty and carried that hunger for attention into her Hollywood career. As she skyrocketed to fame, her off-screen adventures made as many headlines as her movies. She loved nightlife, wild parties, and running with crowds that weren't always on the studio's approved guest list. In the gossip columns, whispers of mob-backed financiers funding her Hollywood escapades became part of the story. The studios did everything they could to protect their golden girl, but the rumors never quite faded. Bow didn't help her own case. Her blunt personality and refusal to play the polished Hollywood star fed into the myth that she was closer to the underworld than anyone wanted to admit. Her uninhibited approach to life made her the perfect subject for speculation about underworld connections. Clara Bow's career faded by the early 1930s, but her legend never did. To this day, she remains an icon of the jazz age, remembered not just for her films, but for the unfiltered lifestyle that tied her name to mob money and late-night parties. She may have been the it girl, but to many, she was also Hollywood's first true gangster's moll. Marie Windsor. If you've ever watched a noir film, chances are you've seen Marie Windsor, known as the Queen of the Bees. Windsor made a career out of playing the tough, sultry women who always seemed to be one step away from trouble. On screen, she perfected the role of the gangster's moll. Off-screen, her reputation wasn't so far removed from her characters. Windsor's social life often overlapped with men who were more connected to mob bankrolls than studio payrolls. She attended the parties, rubbed elbows with gamblers, and became known as a woman who didn't shy away from living on the edge. Directors loved her because she brought authenticity to her roles. She didn't just act like a moll. She carried the aura of someone who had lived it. Unlike some of her peers, Windsor never became a headline scandal. She walked the line carefully, balancing her film career with a personal life that kept her linked to the kind of men Hollywood pretended didn't exist. But the whispers followed her. For audiences, That made her performances electric. Watching Windsor on screen felt real because it was fueled by an off-screen life that already danced in the shadows. Marie Windsor never achieved A-list stardom, but in many ways, she didn't need to. She carved out her own legend as both Hollywood's noir queen and one of the actresses, most convincingly, and perhaps authentically, tied to the world of gangster malls. Virginia Mayo. Virginia Mayo was one of the brightest stars of the 1940s, celebrated for her performances in classics like White Heat and The Best Years of Our Lives. On screen, she played everything from the sweet girl next door to the femme fatale who drove men to ruin. Off-screen, it was the latter role that seemed to follow her. Mayo's Hollywood social life often drew whispers about her associations with gamblers and figures rumored to have underworld connections. While she wasn't directly linked to scandal, her close friendships and choice of companions kept her name floating in the same conversations as mob-backed nightlife. This was the era when nightclubs doubled as power hubs, and Mayo, with her charm and looks, was always on the guest list. The irony is that she never needed the association. Her talent alone could carry her career. Yet, Hollywood insiders like to note how comfortably she fit into roles as gangsters' malls on screen. It added an edge of realism, as if Mayo was channeling a life that wasn't entirely separate from her own. Virginia Mayo's story is less about downfall and more about reputation. She stayed successful, kept her name strong, and remained respected in the industry. Still, her legacy carries the shadow of those whispers. The idea that behind the perfect blonde curls was a woman who knew the underworld a little too well. June Lang. June Lang's story is one of Hollywood's sharpest warnings about choosing love over career. In the 1930s, she was a rising star at 20th Century Fox, appearing in films alongside Shirley Temple and starring in pictures that put her on the brink of real stardom. Then, she married Johnny Roselli, a man whose name was whispered with respect and fear in equal measure. Roselli wasn't just any suitor. He was a mob figure with influence stretching from Hollywood to Las Vegas. Nicknamed Handsome Johnny for his smooth diplomatic skills, Roselli cultivated an image that helped him blend into Hollywood society. But behind that polished exterior lay a much darker reality. For Fox, this was a disaster. Studios were obsessed with image, and the idea of their starlet being married to a mobster was unacceptable. Practically overnight, Lang's career collapsed. Roles dried up, contracts disappeared, and her once promising future turned into obscurity. Lang's marriage to Roselli didn't last, but the damage was permanent. She later claimed she had no idea about her husband's ties to organized crime during their time together. As unlikely as that may sound, it's possible she truly was unaware. In Hollywood at that time, Roselli's mob affiliations weren't widely known, and he had an uncanny ability to present himself as whatever people wanted him to be. Hollywood never fully forgave her, and she spent the rest of her career in minor roles. Her big break lost forever. What's especially striking is how direct the cause was. Unlike other actresses whose reputations were built on rumors, Lang's career was torpedoed simply because she chose the wrong man. Marilyn Monroe. America's most iconic blonde bombshell had darker connections than most fans ever realized. Marilyn Monroe's glamorous image concealed a web of dangerous relationships that may have contributed to her mysterious death. On a summer night in July 1962, at director George Cukor's lavish Beverly Hills estate, a party buzzed with Hollywood's most powerful guests. The real stir wasn't the glamorous star parade, but the moment Marilyn Monroe stood beside Sam Giancana, the infamous boss of the Chicago outfit, a man the FBI once ranked among the 10 most dangerous in America. By then, Monroe was exhausted, caught in a tangled triangle with President John F. Kennedy and his brother, Robert Kennedy. Her close friend, actress Jean Carmen, later admitted on CBS that Marilyn often lamented, "I'm just a decorative object in this world of power." That vulnerability made her an ideal target for mafia manipulation. Monroe's connection to mob figures wasn't limited to Giancana. She was also linked to the charming Sonny Farnese, creating a dangerous love triangle when her ex-husband, baseball legend Joe DiMaggio, was still deeply in love with her. In one infamous incident, when Monroe sang Happy Birthday to President Kennedy at Madison Square Garden, DiMaggio chased Farnese through the arena, attempting to confront him about the affair. Documents published by journalist Anthony Summers revealed that Giancana ordered his men to monitor Monroe's every move at her Brentwood home. Neighbors told NBC that on the night of August 4, 1962, several sleek black Cadillacs pulled up at Monroe's door near midnight. Strange men went in and out. Hours later, Monroe was found unconscious, clutching a bottle of sedatives. Rumors swirled that the mafia wanted to silence Marilyn because she knew too much about ties between the Kennedy administration and the underworld. Phyllis McGuire. The McGuire sisters were one of the most popular female singing groups of the 1950s, known for their wholesome image as daughters of a minister. That reputation was challenged when glamorous lead singer Phyllis McGuire embarked on a scandalous romance with notorious Chicago mob boss Sam Giancana. Giancana first noticed McGuire while she was performing with her sisters at the Desert Inn in 1959. Impressed, he even intervened to cancel a substantial debt she owed the casino. What began as a favor quickly blossomed into one of Hollywood's most talked-about forbidden romances. Though McGuire initially testified before a grand jury in 1965 that she and Giancana were only friends, she later admitted that the relationship had been romantic. She insisted that at the time of their first meeting, she had no idea who he was. Despite their feelings, McGuire faced immense pressure to end the relationship. The affair threatened the McGuire sisters' career, upset their parents, and even drew the attention of the FBI, which investigated Giancana and went so far as to plant listening devices in McGuire's bedroom. Time magazine remarked, "Whenever McGuire sings, audiences hear not only music, but the echo of Chicago shadows." The scandal peaked in 1965, when the FBI's surveillance was leaked to the press. The Chicago Tribune and Los Angeles Times blared, "America's sweetheart in the arms of a mob boss," and McGuire's once pristine image became a national punchline. In a 1967 CBS interview, Phyllis wept, "I just loved the wrong man. I wasn't involved in his business." But it was too late. Radio stations banned McGuire sisters' tracks. Performance contracts evaporated. The group disbanded. From a symbol of innocence, she became living proof that a single wrong love could destroy an entire career. Donna Reed. Donna Reed is best remembered as one of Hollywood's most wholesome stars. She won an Academy Award for her role in From Here to Eternity. But to millions of Americans in the mid-20th century, Reed embodied the image of the perfect homemaker through her television series, The Donna Reed Show, where she played the ever-gracious Donna Stone. That's why it comes as such a surprise to learn that in the late 1940s, Reed was romantically linked to mobster Johnny Roselli. Handsome and charming, Roselli easily moved in Hollywood social circles, reportedly dating not only Reed, but also Lana Turner, Betty Hutton, and several other actresses of the era. Nicknamed the Henry Kissinger of the mob for his smooth diplomatic skills, Roselli cultivated an image that helped him blend into Hollywood society. But behind that polished exterior lay a much darker reality. According to author Douglas Thompson, Roselli was deeply tied to organized crime and even involved in multiple murders. What makes Reed's case so fascinating is the stark contrast between her public image and her private life. While Americans welcomed her into their homes as the quintessential wholesome mother figure, few had any idea that the same woman had once been intimately involved with one of the mob's most influential power brokers in Hollywood. Reed's ability to completely separate these two worlds, maintaining her squeaky clean image while having navigated dangerous romantic waters, speaks to both her exceptional acting skills and Hollywood's unparalleled talent for image management and secret-keeping. Jane Mansfield. Given how much time the Colombo family underboss Sonny Fornesi spent at iconic nightclubs like the Copacabana, it's no surprise that he mingled with countless celebrities. What is surprising, however, is that he was romantically linked to some of the most famous actresses of 1950 and 60, including Marilyn Monroe, Diahann Carroll, and Jane Mansfield. According to Crime Reads, Mansfield was madly in love with Fornesi. Their first meeting was the stuff of nightclub legend. One evening at the Latin Quarter, the glamorous star suddenly appeared on stage and looked directly down at Fornesi, leaving the mobster stunned by her presence. At the time, Mansfield was married to actor and bodybuilder Mickey Hargitay. She reportedly told Fornesi that her husband would be taking her home that night. The mobster, unfazed, warned her that if Hargitay showed up at the club again, he would beat him up. Despite Mansfield's infatuation, the romance never developed into anything lasting. For Fornesi, handsome, charming, and constantly surrounded by admirers, it was just another fleeting affair while he continued to play the field. What truly set Mansfield apart from other Hollywood mob romances was her brazenness. Unlike many actresses who tried to hide their underworld connections, Mansfield seemed drawn to the danger, publicly flirting with one of the most powerful mobsters in New York. Her platinum blonde bombshell image, already controversial for its over-the-top sexuality, only became more scandalous with her mob associations, and she appeared to relish every moment of it. Billie Holiday. It's well known that the legendary jazz singer Billie Holiday endured a deeply troubled personal life. Born into hardship, she survived an abusive childhood, faced relentless struggles with addiction, and encountered countless other challenges. That she still managed to leave behind such an extraordinary musical legacy in only 44 years is nothing short of remarkable. Her love life was yet another source of pain. In 1957, Holiday married her third and final husband, Louis McKay, a man whose presence only added more turmoil to her already difficult world. McKay was abusive, controlling, and greedy. He stole her money and fancied himself a gangster. Reports suggest that he worked as a mob enforcer and may have engaged in other criminal activities. Holiday thought she'd found a shoulder after years of loneliness. Within months, his true face showed. He forced her to sing at private parties in the Waldorf Astoria for the underworld elite. Rooms fogged with cigar smoke, raucous laughter drowning out music, stacks of cash sliding hand to hand. A jazz musician told Life, "Billie stood there like a silhouette. She wasn't singing for fans. She was paying off the man in the front row." McKay didn't stop at career control. He seized her assets. Every contract passed through him. Most fees vanished. Friends saw Holiday coerced into signing over her home in her own living room. Holiday never went to the police about the physical abuse she suffered. She was too afraid of her husband's retaliation. The breaking point came when she discovered that McKay had squandered her money in a reckless business deal. When she crumbled, McKay vanished. When she rallied, he returned tighter than before. On July 17, 1959, Holiday died at Metropolitan Hospital in Manhattan with just $750 to her name. Anita Page. Anita Page was MGM's golden girl of the late silent era. Hailed as the girl with the most beautiful face in Hollywood, she starred in The Broadway Melody, one of MGM's early talkie hits, and for a moment, she seemed destined to join the ranks of Garbo and Crawford. But behind the polished studio image, whispers followed her about mob connections. During Prohibition, Hollywood's parties were funded by bootleggers, and Anita Page was often said to have caught the eye of some of these power players. She received extravagant gifts and invitations that didn't always come from studio executives. For the gossip-hungry press, this was irresistible, an MGM darling receiving attention from figures who moved in very different circles. Page denied the rumors, but her career slowed by the mid-1930s. Studios turned to new faces, and she faded from the spotlight, her legacy tinged with the mystery of whether the whispers were true. What's fascinating about Anita Page's story is how much of it was projection. Fans wanted to believe that the beautiful starlet wasn't just a movie fantasy, but also the kind of woman gangsters would risk it all to court. Whether or not the tales were exaggerated, the association cemented her reputation as one of Hollywood's most talked-about molls. As the transition from silent films to talkies claimed many careers, Page's early retirement was attributed to her marriage. However, some historians suggest her rumored mob connections made studios nervous during an era when they were desperately trying to clean up Hollywood's image. Those whispers may have cost her what could have been one of the great careers of early Hollywood. Joan Blondell. Joan Blondell was one of Warner Brothers' most beloved stars, lighting up the 1930s with her sparkling humor and quick wit. She was the wisecracking blonde who could steal a scene with a single line, and audiences adored her. But while Blondell was squeaky clean on screen, off-screen, she was rumored to mingle with men whose business dealings weren't always legitimate. Hollywood in the Depression era was heavily bankrolled by mob money, nightclubs, casinos, even some studio investments. Blondell, with her approachable charm, fit perfectly into that world. She attended the parties, laughed with the power players, and earned a reputation for being connected to gamblers and financiers who had one foot in Hollywood and one foot in the underworld. Unlike some contemporaries, Blondell's career didn't collapse because of it. She was too talented, too popular, and too smart to let gossip ruin her. But the stories followed her for years, painting her as someone who knew how to play the game off-screen as well as she did on-screen. Blondell's story shows a different side of the gangster moll archetype. She wasn't destroyed by it. If anything, she used the association to give her roles more credibility. When Joan Blondell played the sassy blonde in smoky nightclubs, audiences believed it because, in a way, she had already lived it. While many actresses saw their careers tank from mob associations, Blondell managed to navigate these dangerous waters with remarkable savvy. Her ability to maintain both her reputation and her relationships made her a rare success story in an era when the wrong connection could end a career overnight. From platinum blondes to jazz legends, these women walked the dangerous line between stardom and the underworld. Some were victims, manipulated by powerful men. Others were willing participants, drawn to the danger and excitement. Either way, their stories reveal a side of Hollywood's golden age that studio publicists worked desperately to hide. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Was it wholesome Donna Reed's secret mob romance? Or perhaps Marilyn Monroe's dangerous final days? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, for every Hollywood secret we've uncovered, dozens more remain buried in Tinseltown's shadowy past. What dangerous liaisons might today's stars be hiding?